Greetings, fellow action figure connoisseurs, and welcome to Top 10 Week here on Digital Caveman Presents. I, as always, am your host, the Digital Caveman, and today I will be presenting you with my Top 10 G.I. Joe Classified Series of 2024. The criteria for making my list is pretty simple. It has to be something in the category of G.I. Joe Classified Series, and I had to review it in 2024. The only exception being is if I labeled it as a From the Toy Box review. Now, let's get into it! Let's start our list off with our honorable mention. The guy who just missed making the list. The G.I. Joe Classified Series Rock and Roll. And the only thing I don't like about this figure is the two-tone shirt. And I realize that they're doing a retro-carded version of Rock and Roll, and I've seen the pictures, and it doesn't come with nearly the accessory stuff that this one did. None of the arm tats are on there because the sleeves are rolled down, I believe, and just it's not as detailed as this one. And if they had not made the shirt two-tone on this one, they wouldn't have had to make a retro one at all, in my opinion. Now, I'll take it back. The sleeves may be rolled up on the other one, but I still don't think he has, like, all the arm tattoos, and he doesn't come with the extra hands. And I'm not sure about the color of the accessories. So, but here we have, this is our honorable mention. A figure I really like, just not quite enough to make it into that top 10. G.I. Joe Classified Series Rock and Roll. Coming in at number 10, starting the list proper, we have the G.I. Joe Classified Series General Hawk. And this is one I feel like they won't have to make a retro carded version of it, because it is slightly modernized, but it has 100% of all the classic elements that made this character great to begin with, at least design-wise. And I don't remember him coming with a grenade launcher originally, but hey, more weapons the merrier. And I do like his weapons. The pistol is really nice. Both of the pistols actually are really nice. I like the fact that he comes with his helmet with his 1 star marking him as a brigadier general, his bomber jacket, just again all those classic elements from a Real American Heroes General Hawk, with just a little bit of updating, like he's got knee pads now. He's got a little bit of gray in his hair, and just a great version of this figure. And it's almost, not quite, but almost like they took that 3 3/4 figure and just scaled it up. And I'm fine with that. If they never make a retro carded version, even if they do make a retro carded version of this, I probably won't pick it up unless there's something like just super awesome about it. But for me, this one fits the bill. G.I. Joe Classified Series General Hawk at number 10. At number 9, we have Quick Kick. the G.I. Joe Classified series, Quick Kick, of course. They're all G.I. Joe Classified series. And, you know, just, I love the accessories that come with this, especially the fact that he comes with a fudgy bar. Which, for those of you unfamiliar with it, that was a commercial he was shooting at the time, you know, right before he joined the G.I. Joe team in the cartoon. And I just, it's cool. Now, the other thing I really like about this figure is it gives us a new, thinner, very muscular body that can be used, you know, in other places down the road. There are some drawbacks to it as well, which is why it didn't make it as high on my list as maybe other people's. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody else's top 10s for 2024 as of this time. But, you know, just the plastic chains on the nunchucks, just as long as you're keeping them stored in his belt, it's fine. But as far as for posing and stuff like that, I don't care for them. I don't think they're very good. And at some point, I'm probably going to clip them a little bit and see if I can put some real chain in it, just to give it a little bit of realism. Maybe even put some wire in said chain so that it's not only functional but posable as well. But, you know, fudgy bar, my friends, fudgy bar. And that's number 9 on my list for 2024. G.I. Joe Classified series, Quick Kick. In the number 8 place, we have the G.I. Joe Classified series, Retro Carded Recondo. And I will tell you guys, I've never been so happy to see a repaint ever. I don't think. At least, not that I can remember. This guy, of course, being retro carded, hits all those classic elements from A Real American Hero. And I realize it's just basically a repaint of the Python Patrol, Tiger Force Target exclusive. And Tiger Force is not my thing. You know, just some of the Python Patrol, you know, the colorations don't make sense, but some of them look cool. But yeah, Tiger Force, other than Outback, never really appealed to me that much. But Recondo, I used to use Recondo all the time when I was a kid playing Joes. I just thought he was cool. Australian dude, talked with that Australian accent. He had that funky hat, or at least I always thought it was a funky hat because the side was pinned up like that. And, you know, again, it just hits all the classic elements right, gets me right in the feels. And, you know, the reason this guy didn't get higher up on the list is kind of the gun. I would have liked a more realistic look for the gun. And I'm not talking mold-wise, I'm talking color-wise. And, you know, maybe because he's a jungle guy, maybe that color makes sense on it, but it just doesn't feel right. Even though I know it's, you know, goes back to that solid colored weapon that he had in that original 3 3/4 line. And that's kind of what they do with the retro carded stuff is, you know, they don't give them the more realistic looking accessories. They kind of paint them or deco them so that, you know, they're more of that classic 3 3/4 look. And, you know, I'm glad they don't do that as much on the figures. And it's mostly just the weapons or the accessories, but I guess that's neither here nor there. This guy, again, you know, he hits me right in those nostalgic feelings, and it really works. And I'm glad that they did this guy as a retro card rather than just repainting him and doing him as a regular classified release. So there he is, number 8, G.I. Joe Classified Series retro carded Recondo. Here we have my pick for number 7 of 2024, the G.I. Joe Classified Series Stinger and Stinger Driver. I know it's like Night Attack, 4-wheel drive, Stinger, whatever. It's the Stinger. And I have to say, this one is a little bit further down the list than I would have liked, but there's some things about it that I didn't quite... I didn't like. There's some things about it I didn't like. The exhaust for the missiles not being able to peg onto the port like it's actually launching off of there. It just plugs into the back of the missile, and there's no way to get a firing missile posted on the rack as it's flying off. I hope that makes sense. Similar to what they did with the HasLab Dragonfly. And when they have a better body for Cobra Trooper than the Target Cobra Island Cobra Trooper body, and then just adding officer parts to it, the overlays and the weapons and stuff, you know, I'm a little confused why they are still using that mold. It's way outdated at this point, really. And really doesn't fit in with the rest of the line. So, either update it or stop using it, Hasbro. And I really wanted this to be higher up on my list because as a kid, this was one of my favorite vehicles to use. And I don't know why, it's just a Jeep with a missile rack on the back of it. But, you know, you're outside playing G.I. Joes and it's a Jeep and you just push it around the hills and through the grass and going through the mud. And anyway, the other thing I really didn't like about this, or not necessarily I don't like, I just don't understand. This is supposed to be a night attack vehicle, yet the windshield is tinted super dark. So that to me just doesn't make sense. And then, you know, the thing with the missiles. Other than that, it's really, really good. I like it. I just don't love it like I feel like I should. But there it is, my friends. Number 7, G.I. Joe Classified 4-wheel drive, Night Attack, Stinger, and Stinger Driver. Here at number 6, we have the G.I. Joe Classified Series Mutt and Junkyard 2-pack. And I have to say, you know, anything that Mutt didn't get right, Junkyard more than makes up for it. And that's not to say that he really got, you know, they got anything wrong with it. It's really nice version, modern version of the figures. It still hits those classic elements, and we get a fully articulated dog to go with it. And you know, it's just a fantastic sculpt, range of motion, and everything on Junkyard. And I really appreciate what they did here with that figure. And that's not to say that, you know, I don't want to take anything away from Mutt, because he is what he is. He's a dog handler, he's a dog lover. So if you like dogs, then you know you probably like Mutt. And you know, I think he comes with the right types of accessories: the baton, the rifle, the sidearm, the knife. Well, that's basically what all G.I. Joe Classified come with, ain't it? But, you know, I like the look of this, and like I said, you know, it is a more modern take on the character, and that's fine. It really works, and I don't mind mixing and matching this guy in with any retro carded figures. I think it all works fine. At least in my opinion. Your mileage, of course, may vary. But there they are, my friends. Number 6, G.I. Joe Classified Series, Mutt and Junkyard. Here we are at a little bit better than the halfway point, I suppose. Number 5, G.I. Joe Classified Series, Cobra Techno Viper. And I have to say, I really love this guy from a design standpoint. I always thought he was cool. Back in the day, you know, he had that little rubber hose, and he had, you know, the 3 tools and the gun, and, you know, I don't think they did a lot of updating on this figure as far as traditional elements. I think, you know, it hits all the right traditional elements and very little modernization, it feels like, at least to me. Now, if I had one complaint about this figure, I would say that I think the backpack sits up high a little bit too much. I think it should, you know, sit a little bit lower on his back. And you can do that by flipping it upside down. At least, you know, I'm guessing, you know, this is right side up because the handle up on the top. I could be wrong. I could be displaying it wrong. But it just seems like the hose is not supposed to go up over his shoulder. And anyway, so I think this is the way it goes. I just wish it would have sat a little bit lower on his back. In other words, the peg needed to be moved up just slightly. And of course, the little hologram readout on his arm, I think that's a fantastic piece. And it is one of those few elements that they updated for this figure. And, you know, I really like this dude. I like this dude back in the day and would use him a lot. But I just think that hologram readout piece is a really, really good modern addition to this figure, and I really like it. Even the tools and the rifle just really hit that classic spot for me. But that is number 5, the G.I. Joe Classified Series, Cobra Techno Viper. Here's my number 4 entry on this list, G.I. Joe Classified Series Vamp with Clutch. And I never had the Real American Hero version of this. I had the Vamp Mark II, which was the one that had the 4 little missiles on the back of it rather than the laser gun. This one is a nice updated version to that, giving it the realistic Ma Deuces on the back. And I think it's a more realistic type of a vehicle than the original was. The original was supposed to have laser guns on the back of it, I believe. And it did have a nice little feature on it, though. The little button you could push, I think, that had made the barrels go back and forth like they were firing. And so I like this. It comes with a nice little bit of accessories. I do, again, like the update on this one with the machine guns rather than the laser gun. But at some point, I may feel like I need to get the more classic look for this vehicle and 3D print the originals guns in this scale so that I can do it, make it a classic version if I want to, but I probably won't. I will say one thing that kept this vehicle from being a little bit higher on the list was I did, out of the box, have to make some modifications to it because the instructions weren't good about or where they were wanting you to place the ammo boxes. I didn't like it. It didn't make sense what the instructions said, so I modified them with some magnets, and I modified the little platform it's sitting on with some magnets, and so now they are magnetized on that platform. They move with the gun, and the positioning makes a heck of a lot more sense than it did before. But there it is, my friends. Number 4, the G.I. Joe Classified Series Vamp with Clutch. And here, friends, we're starting to get down into the real nitty-gritty of the list. Here we have number 3, the G.I. Joe Classified Series Retro Carded Scarlet. And Scarlet was always one of my favorite G.I. Joe characters, mostly due to the cartoon. I did read the comic book a little bit. I've read the whole thing as an adult, if you don't count the IDW additions to A Real American Hero. And, you know, I don't like her as much in the comics as I did in the cartoon. And I have to say, this figure is a really nice homage to both versions of the character, at least in my opinion. Your mileage, of course, may vary. You know, and even though it's a retro carded release, they did give her, it feels like, a little bit of a modern upgrade, or at least an upgrade. I don't know how modern, maybe. But, you know, she's got weapons aplenty, a plethora of weapons, sidearms, knives, crossbows, 2 rifles, and a backpack. And if I recall correctly, the original version only came with a crossbow and a backpack. But again, this is a nice mix of both characters. I do like the fact that she comes with 2 different ponytails, and not only that, but if you don't want to put the ponytail in, you want the more action figure oriented look, you can just leave the ponytails out altogether, and you get more of that classic action figure look as opposed to the animation look. And I always hated that the original figure did not have a ponytail for some reason. It irked me because of the, you know, the way that the animation was, and then she didn't quite live up to that. But again, it's a nice version, a nice mix of the animation and the action figure. Even comes with the animated rifle, and I think that's nice. A nice touch to it. And I really, really like this figure. Unfortunately, there were 2 more figures that just I liked better. But there she is, my friends. Number 3, the G.I. Joe Classified Series Retro Carded Scarlet. My friends, we are almost done. One away from completing our top 10 list. But here is number 2, the G.I. Joe Classified Series Retro Carded Duke. And man, this guy is so classic that it almost hurts. That classic Real American Hero helmet with the visor, and then his accessories, the binoculars, and his primary rifle, not the animated rifle, but his primary machine gun. And even his backpack, you know, those are all very, very retro things. And I even like the tampo that's on his shovel that, you know, G.I. Joe is there wherever there's trouble. Over land and sea and air. G.I. Joe is there. And, you know, he has a usable sidearm. The other one just had the original, you know, it was just molded in. And this is a great update to that classic figure. And I think it's a better looking and better working figure than that Series 1 Duke that we got. And that they reissued, you know, they gave us a repaint of that in the more classic colors. And then again, Tiger Force, I think, Target exclusive Tiger Force with the Ram cycle. And those colors weren't actually very bad on that Tiger Force Duke. I kind of actually liked those, and I probably would have picked that up if he had not come with that Ram cycle, whose colors I detest. I do not like them at all. And that's why I did not pick that up. But, you know, Duke to me is the leader of G.I. Joe. Yeah, later we got Hawk, and he was the leader, unless you go by the you know, I mean, at least he's the field leader. You know, they always had a kind of a general in charge, and then, you know, Hawk was a colonel. At least in the comic books, Hawk was a colonel. He got promoted to brigadier general, 1-star general, and then he was the leader. And they kind of, you know, even when Flint came along, they used Duke in the field a lot less. And, you know, that's a shame, because I always felt like Duke was a really great leader for the Joe team. Of course, you know, usually first sergeants or tops, whatever you want to call them. You know, first sergeants had lots of nicknames. Not all of them great, I'm sure. But, you know, these were the guys that ran stuff. You know, the lieutenants went to these guys. It's just how it was. At least, that's what I've heard. But, you know, I always liked Duke. I thought he was cool. And he was so cool, he made number 2 on my list. Not number 1, though. Still got number 1 coming up. But here we have number 2, the G.I. Joe Classified Series Retro Carded Duke. Yay! My friends, you made it all the way to number 1 on my G.I. Joe Top 10 list. And the number 1 figure for me was the G.I. Joe Classified Series Retro Carded Cobra Commander. And I realize a lot of people, you know, basically already got this one, you know, those of us that picked up the His Tank, which was not me. And, you know, this one is more of the animated look. He has the proper Cobra symbol. And his knife is usable as opposed to the original figures not being usable. And when I say original, I mean the real American Hero figure. And, you know, if I had one, well, the only real complaints, I guess, because there was more than one, that I have with this figure is, even though I love the back metal of the mask, I know that over time, that stuff just wears out. It rubs off. It goes away. And there's not a whole lot you can do about it. And, you know, that's, I guess, the major issue I had with this. The other one is really minor. It's kind of a cosmetic thing. You know, the original Real American Hero figure, his backpack was molded as part of the figure's torso, and the gun just plugged in to that, where this one has, you know, there was no cover over the gun, where this one has a cover. It's more kind of like a holster, and maybe this makes more sense than the other, but I don't know, a very, very minor thing. not even really enough to call an issue. It's just, I guess, a preference of mine. I would have preferred it to be a little more in line with that classic, especially with this being a retro carded release. But still, a fantastic figure. So fantastic and so great looking and so awesome that it made my number one for the year. The G.I. Joe Classified Series Retro Carded Cobra Commander number 1, baby. Well, there you have it, my friends. My G.I. Joe Classified top 10 picks for 2024. Did you agree with it? Disagree with it? Let me know in the comments what you thought, whether you agreed or disagreed, or if we just agreed to disagree. And that does it for the list. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. Only support from viewers like you make this programming possible. Each view does count, and I do appreciate each and every single view that I receive. Thank you, and thank you so very, very much for supporting this channel through viewing. If you are interested in supporting my channel further, I am now offering memberships at various tiers. Click the join button on my YouTube page or check this video's description for the link and see if any membership offers are right for you, but only if you are in a position to do so. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you would like to see more content or just help the channel grow, or both, that's even better. And don't forget to ding that bell so that in the future, you will be notified as my new content becomes available. That's a wrap, folks. I'll see you next time.